Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday morning to you, and welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I'm the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. Hey, before I get into my video this morning, I want to make a correction. Last week, I made reference to an article by a scholar by the name of Crispin Fletcher Lewis. For some reason, I don't know why, but I referred to him as she. I knew better than that. It was just a slip of the tongue. So anyway, did want to correct that. My apologies. Should Mr. Crispin Fletcher Lewis know that what I did, I do humbly apologize for that. By the way, some of you have asked for a link to that article. If you will go to academia.edu on the internet and just do a search for Mr. Crispin Fletcher Lewis articles, there you will find a lot of articles. He's done some really fine writing on the passing of heaven and earth as the destruction of the old covenant temple. Not only that, he has an article entitled, now this is not the precise title, but it's something like The Relativization of the Law, the Old Covenant Law, and the Passing of Heaven and Earth. In that article, as well as the one that I noted last week, Mr. Lewis shows that in Matthew 5:17 and 18, in Matthew 24 and verse 35, you have references to the passing of heaven and earth in direct connection to the passing of the law of Moses, passing away the law of Moses. And he suggests, by the way, which we as preterists have been suggesting for many years, that there's a direct chronological relationship between the destruction of the temple and the passing away of the old law. And by the way, that means that the law did not pass away at the cross, as some erroneously teach. All right, back to Isaiah chapter 66 as we continue our study of the Olivet Discourse. Is it divided? Is it united? We have been focusing on Matthew 25, 1-13, and the parable of the coming of the bridegroom for the wedding. Now, let me reiterate something that's very important for you to understand. While in Isaiah chapter 66, we don't find the term wedding, we don't find the term marriage, what we do find is the promise of the new heaven and the new earth. As we shall see, as I've already seen, biblically, the new creation comes as a result of the destruction of the old creation. Biblically, the new creation comes as a direct result of the wedding. The descent of the New Jerusalem coming down from God out of heaven, adorned as a bride for her husband. Revelation 21, 1-2. New creation. And so, when we come to Isaiah chapter 66, even though the term wedding, even though the term marriage does not appear, we have to understand that between the destruction of the old temple, as foretold right here in Isaiah 66, between that and the new creation stands the coming of the Lord for the wedding. The coming of the Lord is to destroy the old covenant world, the old covenant temple, the old covenant people, as Isaiah 65, 13 and following has shown us. And flowing from that judgment, the new creation. Okay, so let's get back into Isaiah chapter 66 very quickly. Notice, as I shared with you yesterday, the Lord said that the time was coming in this yet future temple that would be rebuilt. And he's looking beyond 586 BC and the rebuilt temple of 521 BC. He's looking beyond that. And he is looking to the time of the temple of Jesus' day and the abominations that they would commit at that time. Now, watch this. Verse 4. You see, in the previous verses. He says that the time was going to come in which when a man offered a bull as a sacrifice, it'd be like he killed a man. A man that killed a lamb would be the same as if he broke a dog's neck. You know, dogs were not sacrificed. That's an abomination. Just as offering a grain offering would be as if you offered a swine. Pigs were unclean. You didn't offer them a sacrifice. Okay. Just as they have chosen their own ways and their soul delights in their abominations, the Lord said, so in this temple, they were going to commit abominations. Think on that. Kind of interesting and kind of important, don't you think? Anyway, so will I choose their delusions and bring their fears on them. Because when I called, no one answered. When I spoke, they did not hear, but they did evil before my eyes and chose that in which I do not delight. Now look, folks, I shared with you from Isaiah 65, 1 and 2, that Paul quoted verbatim in Romans 10, 20 and 21. That Paul applied these two prophecies because, you know, Isaiah 65, 1 and 2, the prophecy of the coming of the destruction of the old covenant world, the coming of the new creation, just like Isaiah chapter 66, the coming of the Lord, the destruction of the temple, and the new ensuing new creation. Parallel prophecies, they are no different from one another. And Paul applied both of those prophecies to his day and to his time. When I called, you did not answer. I don't know how we get around this, to be real honest about it. Since the Apostle Paul quoted from Isaiah 65, 1 and 2, and when he quoted from Isaiah 66, verse 4, and applied it to his day, his time, his ministry, there is absolutely no justification. I'll say this. It sounds strong, and it is. It is a perversion of these passages to apply them to any other day, any other time, and any other events than Paul's generation. When Paul applies Isaiah 65 and Isaiah 66 to his day, his time, his generation, you and I have no authority to apply it to any other day, any other time. And so all of those people who say, well, you know, I agree that AD 70 was a type, a foreshadowing of the real day of the Lord. I have issued this challenge repeatedly on Facebook. I've never gotten a definitive answer. I've got a cloud of words that never gave an answer. But the challenge is this. Show us from Isaiah 65 and 66. Show us from Paul's application of Isaiah 65 and 66, where Isaiah looked beyond the new creation that would come at the time of the destruction of the temple in Paul's day and in Paul's time, to another new creation beyond that. Show us from Paul's eschatological writings, where when he applies Isaiah 65 and Isaiah 66 to his generation, show us where he ever said, well, you know, this will happen and this is about to happen, but guess what? What's about to happen looks beyond to the greater, to the real new heaven and new earth. Folks, there is no such application. There is absolutely zero evidence to support that. It is only because people have a presuppositional idea, concept of the nature of the day of the Lord and the nature of the new heaven and the new earth, that they refuse to accept the application, the prophecy and its application, and to say, well, okay, yes, it predicted AD 70. Oh, but it looks beyond that. I'm waiting for someone to provide the proof. Because as I pointed out on Facebook just the other day, when Jesus made the application of the Old Covenant prophecies of the day of vengeance, and he pointed to the destruction of Jerusalem in his day and in his time, and he said, these be the days of vengeance, in which all things that are written must be fulfilled. The word fulfilled, means come to pass, brought to its completion. If those were the days of vengeance in which all things that were written would be fulfilled, then folks, there is nothing written about the days of vengeance to be fulfilled beyond those days. Pure and simple, unavoidable, and irrefutable. Okay, out of time for this morning. Hey, don't forget the February 3-book special. Go to my website, donkpreston.com, BibleProphecy.com. Listen, take advantage of it, okay? Save yourself $25 plus. You'll be glad you did. Okay, I'll see you.